certified union members do not qualify. I believe you had said that's correct. So if you're working in a position that requires certification, you are not covered. Non-certified union members qualify. Yes. So all employees working in positions that do not require certification under Chapter 166 at public schools are going to be covered effective October 1st. If I need leave for an appointment, like to go to the bank or any other for 2 hours, what kind of leave should I apply for? Um, the only time you would be able to use Connecticut paid leave for that would be if it fell under that qualifying exigency leave. That's where a military member is being deployed and you need to make specific arrangements. I don't think that's what you're referring to. Um, so I would say you would need to consult with your employer about that. It might just be using PTO, but that would depend on your employer's policies. Um, did I hear correctly that the employee doesn't need to exhaust all of their accrued sick time during leave? So what the Connecticut FMLA law says is that your employer cannot require that you exhaust all of your accrued PTO while you're on FMLA. So they have to give you the option to retain up to 2 weeks of it if you would like to do that. Um, how does this impact residents of Connecticut that work in Massachusetts? So Massachusetts has their own paid leave program. So someone who works in Massachusetts would apply to Massachusetts paid leave because it's not based on residency, it's based on where you work. So if your employer is paying unemployment insurance to the state of Connecticut, you are considered to be working in Connecticut. If they're paying unemployment insurance to Massachusetts, then you're considered to be working in Massachusetts. Can you speak more on CT paid leave for maternity? So yes, that's what we call bonding leave. So typically, if it's for the birthing parent, what we do is when someone applies, we will ask them, are you planning to take bonding leave immediately after your recovery, right? Because the first typically 6 to 8 weeks after you have a baby are considered, medical leave to recover from the birth. Um, we wanted to streamline that process and not make birthing parents apply for two separate leaves. So we'll ask and say, hey, are you going to take your additional weeks right after your medical leave ends? If yes, it's just one claim for the however long the person's taking up to the 12 weeks. Um, it is certainly possible for the birthing parent to take the 6 or 8 weeks needed for recovery, go back to work, and then take the additional 4 to 6 weeks they have remaining later in the year, but before the child's first birthday. We don't see that very commonly, but it certainly is something that can be done. Um, as a non-certified public school employee, if I need to start FMLA now, will I still be eligible for Connecticut FMLA beginning on October 1st, or do I need to wait until October for both? So you are not eligible for Connecticut FMLA until October 1st. If you needed to start your FMLA now, you might be eligible under federal, but you're not going to be eligible under Connecticut until October 1st. So starting October 1st, you'll have 12 weeks of Connecticut FMLA available. Is it possible to be charged at both jobs if you work two jobs? One is non-certified school and the second is at a municipality. I work two jobs. Um, okay. You are contributing on your wages at all of your covered employers. So if you work two jobs and they're both covered employers, then yes, you would be contributing for both jobs. If at the end of the year you realize that you have earned more than the Social Security contribution limit and therefore you've contributed above that because you have two jobs, you just let us know and we'll issue a refund for the overage. Um, but you saying that one of your jobs is a municipality, municipalities are not covered employers unless unionized members have collectively bargained to participate. And there are very few, if any, that have actually done that. So I would be curious to know where that job is to just make sure that they are actually supposed to be taking deductions for that. I'm putting my email address in the chat. Um, Whomever sent that question, if they want to just, send me a separate email, we can look into that a little bit more. What if you have less than 2 weeks worth of sick leave? Can your employer force you to use it before using Connecticut FMLA? So I just want to clarify, when you say Connecticut FMLA, FMLA is just the job protected piece. FMLA is not money. It's not income replacement. What I think what you're trying to say is, if you have less than 2 weeks worth of sick leave, can your employer make you use it all for your FMLA leave before you apply for Connecticut paid leave? And the answer is no. If you have less than 2 weeks, and you want to hold on to it, they have to let you hold on to it. And therefore you could come and apply to Connecticut paid leave. Since people are just starting to contribute now, are they able to apply right away? Yes, there's no waiting period, so you're eligible effective October 1st. If you have a leave that starts on October 1st, you would be, as long as you were approved, you would be eligible that first day. Um, I'm confused about how Connecticut paid sick leave that we currently have relates to my intermittent FMLA claim. If I use my Connecticut paid sick leave hours, do I need to report them as intermittent FMLA as well? So again, FMLA is the job protected piece, right? So paid sick leave, Connecticut paid leave, PTO, short-term disability, that's all about how you're getting paid. So you always want to report the time you're taking that qualifies as FMLA as FMLA time because that protects you and it protects your employer. Um, Using your Connecticut paid sick leave hours is really just how you're getting paid for that job protected time you're taking off. I'm not sure if that answered the question. Please, feel free to put another question in or send me an email if I haven't really captured what you were asking properly. Is Connecticut sick leave and Connecticut paid leave completely different? Yes, they're not, they're different laws. They're not completely different, but they are different. So again, sick leave, any illness or injury can be routine, can be I have to take my kid to the doctor, can be I've got the stomach bug and I can't go to work for 2 days, can be I need a mental health day, right? Those things I just mentioned are not going to rise to the definition of a serious health condition under Connecticut paid leave. Connecticut paid leave is I am incapacitated for essentially, or I would be incapacitated for 3 or more calendar days, and I'm seeing a healthcare provider for treatment. Even if, for example, you were really ill and you were out of work for a week, but you didn't go to the doctor or you went to the doctor and they said, it's just a virus. You got to go home and, drink fluids and take some NyQuil and just let it run its course. That's not going to be a serious health condition, right? Because you're not receiving treatment from that healthcare provider. If the school board I work for is a municipality, is it exempt from the employee deduction? No, this is the change that is going into effect October 1st, right? If you are a non-certified employee of a public school operator includes all those things I showed on the very first slide. Charter schools, magnet schools, regional RESCs, regional education service providers, traditional public schools, that those are not exempt. Those folks are not exempt anymore. Non-certified employees at public school operators are not exempt starting October 1st. Municipalities like the town of Groton, for example, those are the municipalities that are still exempt unless their unionized employees collectively bargain for participation. The $5 per 1,000 paying into CT sick time, do we get more time since we are paying into it? Tammy, I'm not sure I understand your question. I think you're referring to the contributions to Connecticut paid leave. That's the 1/2 of 1%. But I'm not sure what you mean by do we get more time since we're paying into it. So if you wouldn't mind clarifying that question, that would be helpful. HR explained the current CT paid sick as allowing us to take off an hour instead of the district required half or whole day. When they first implemented it last January, they made it sound like we could use it without fear of losing our jobs. That's why I wasn't putting it in as intermittent FMLA. So again, paid sick days are not something that falls under the jurisdiction of the Connecticut Paid Leave Authority. They fall under the Connecticut Department of Labor. So I would definitely advise that you send questions about paid sick days to the Department of Labor. But what I will say is that if it is FMLA, if it's an FMLA qualifying reason, you always want to have it designated as FMLA. That protects you because it means that your employer can't fire you when you're using that time. So um, I would definitely tell them it's FMLA, fill out the paperwork that they ask you to fill out, and make sure that they designate it as such. Um, okay. If I'm already paying per pay period for FMLA and paid leave through my employer with Aflac, should I opt out of it going forward to prevent being charged twice? Um, I'm not entirely sure what you mean when you say you're paying into it twice. When you say through my employer with Aflac, if you're purchasing like a personal Aflac policy, like one of their accident, hospital policies, that we're not looking at that when you're applying, right? The only things we are going to look at is other employer provided income replacement. That means using PTO. That means if you have a group short-term disability policy, for example, our law says you can't make more than 100% of what you would normally make when you combine paid leave with other income replacement benefits. So if your employer is paying you 100% through your PTO use, you're not going to be eligible for Connecticut paid leave. Um, but if you have a personal Aflac policy, that will not impact what Connecticut paid leave will pay. Um, okay, so Tammy clarified, we will begin paying $5 per 1,000 we make. Yep, that's correct. So again, I'm going to send you all the link to how benefits are calculated if you want to see how it would apply to your own situation. You can do the math out and see what your benefit rate would be. I will just say it's important to keep in mind that if you are getting any other income replacement from your employer, that could change what your benefit amount is. Um, Short-term disability, for example, that's a private contract between the employer and the short-term disability company, and they all say different things in their policies. So some short-term disability policies will reduce what they'll pay by what we pay. That's just something that's part of their contract. So it's important to know what that says. Okay. This is the last one in there, and we're right at 7 o'clock, so perfect timing. Understood about reporting it as FMLA. We already have PTO. They designate 40 of those hours as CT paid sick time and state we need to use it before the rest of our PTO. Again, I'm really going to advise that for questions about paid sick days, you go to the Department of Labor because that's really under their purview, and I don't want to provide incorrect information on that. All right. So I think we've gotten through everything. It's 7:01. I want to thank everybody for taking the time this evening to join. I know it's a lot of information, and it's brand new for you all, so I appreciate you taking this time. Again, just give us a couple of days to get the recording together and the slide deck, and it will be sent out to you. And then lastly, my email address is there in the chat. If anyone has specific questions that I didn't answer or that you think of afterwards and you'd like to send them to me, please feel free to do so. And either I will answer them or I will get them to someone on our team who can answer them for you. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great evening.